My director told the investors I was just the party planner, after I spent 3 years designing the entire city waterfront. He even ordered me to stand by the door and check coats while he accepted the award. I happily agreed to plan the party, because I knew exactly what was going to happen when he removed the safety cover from the prototype I built specifically to collapse. It started on a Tuesday. A rainy Tuesday in November. I remember the rain because it was hitting the floor-to-ceiling windows of the conference room so hard I could barely hear myself think. Or maybe that was just the blood rushing in my ears. I was sitting at the long mahogany table. The one that costs more than my car. At the head of the table sat Marcus. My director. Marcus is the kind of guy who fails upward. He has an MBA, a gleaming white smile, and an uncanny ability to claim credit for things he doesn't understand. He calls structural supports the pretty beams. He thinks zoning laws are suggestions. And for the last 3 years he'd been the face of the Aurora waterfront project. But I was the brain. I was the one who pulled the all-nighters. I was the one who figured out how to stabilize the pier on silt-heavy riverbed. I was the one who negotiated with the environmental board about the migration patterns of the local heron population. 3 years of my life. My 20s basically evaporated. And now we were 2 weeks away from the investor gala. The night we would unveil the final 3D architectural model and secure the $450 million in funding to break ground. Stephanie, Marcus said, leaning back in his Herman Miller chair. He didn't look at me. He was looking at his reflection in the polished wood. I've been thinking. My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came after Marcus started thinking. The board is concerned about the presentation, he said. They want a singular vision. A strong executive presence. Okay, I said slowly. I can take lead on the Q&A section and you can handle the intro. He held up a hand. A perfectly manicured hand. No, sweetie. You're not hearing me. Sweetie. He hadn't called me that in months. Not since I saved his bacon during the structural integrity audit. I'm going to handle the presentation, Marcus said. Solo. The investors need to see leadership. They don't need to get bogged down in the technical minutiae you like so much. Minutiae. He meant the physics, the math. The reason the buildings wouldn't fall into the river. But Marcus, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You don't know the load-bearing specs for the atrium. You don't know why we chose the tensile steel over the concrete. If they ask. I'll wing it, he smiled. A shark's smile. I'm a big picture guy, Steph. Details are for support staff. Support staff. I have a master's in architecture. I am a licensed structural engineer. So, he continued, clapping his hands together. Since you won't be needing to prep for the speech, I have a new assignment for you. A very important one. He slid a glossy folder across the table. The launch party. I stared at the folder. You want me to plan the party? Not just plan it, he said. Host it. Manage the guest list. Check coats. Make sure the champagne is cold. You're so good at organizing things. It's your wheelhouse. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He wasn't joking. He was taking my career-defining project, the one that was supposed to make me a partner, and he was turning me into the help. I'm the lead architect, I whispered. You're the lead architect when I say you are. His voice dropped. The charm vanished. And right now the project is over budget on personnel. If you want to be on the payroll when we break ground, you'll plan the damn party. And you'll do it with a smile. He checked his Rolex. I have a tea time with the vice president of the bank. Don't wait up. He walked out. I sat there. The rain hammered against the glass. I could have quit. I could have screamed. I could have gone to HR, who I knew for a fact played tennis with Marcus's wife. Instead, I opened the folder. I looked at the budget for the party. $50,000. I looked at the requirements for the model reveal. And then I remembered something. I remembered the Project X prototype. Let me explain about Project X. 6 months ago we had tried a different design for the main atrium. A cantilevered glass structure. It looked beautiful on paper. Stunning. It defied gravity. But in the physical world, gravity is stubborn. I had built a 1:100 scale model of that design to test the stress points. I used the exact materials scaled down. It failed. Spectacularly. It held up fine as long as the support bracing, a clear acrylic case, was around it. But the second you removed the external pressure, the tensile strength gave out. didn't just tip over. It imploded. The tension cables snapped and the glass panels shattered inward. It was a violent, dangerous failure. I had boxed that model up, labeled it rejected unstable. I put it in the back of the archive closet behind the boxes of old blueprints and Christmas decorations. We went with a safer, steel-reinforced design for the final project. That was the model sitting in the studio right now. The good one. The sturdy one. The one Marcus was supposed to unveil. I sat in the conference room tapping my pen against the table. Marcus wanted me to manage the party. He wanted me to manage the reveal. He wanted me to check coats while he pulled the cloth off the model and basked in the applause. He didn't know the difference between the two models. To him they looked identical. They were both shiny, modern glass and steel structures. He had never bothered to attend the engineering meetings where we discussed why the first one failed. He just liked the pretty pictures. I closed the folder. My hands weren't shaking anymore. If he wanted me to be the party planner, I would be the best party planner this firm had ever seen. I would give him exactly what he asked for. I would set the stage. I would arrange the lights. I would make sure every single investor had a front row seat. And I would make sure Marcus had the most memorable reveal of his career. I picked up my phone. I dialed the catering company. "Hi," I said, my voice bright and cheery. "This is Stephanie from Aurora Design. I need to upgrade our order. We're going to need a lot more champagne. We're celebrating." I wasn't lying. I was planning a funeral for his career. And it was going to be an open casket. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in what therapists call gray rocking. If you don't know the term, it means making yourself as uninteresting and unresponsive as a rock. You don't fight. You don't argue. You just exist. Marcus loved it. "Finally," he told me in the break room, stirring 3 sugars into his coffee. "You're seeing the big picture. Being a team player." "Absolutely, Marcus," I said. I was printing labels for the coat check. "Make sure the hors d'oeuvres aren't too messy," he instructed, pointing a spoon at me. "I don't want the investors getting grease on their suits while they're shaking my hand." "Good thinking," I said. "I'll switch the sliders to skewers." "And the lighting," he added. "I want a spotlight. A big one. Right on the podium. When I pull the cover off the model, I want it to gleam. Like a diamond." "Like a diamond," I repeated. "Got it." Every time I agreed with him, his ego inflated a little more. He stopped checking my work. He stopped asking questions. He assumed I was beaten. He assumed I was a good little secretary who had accepted her place. He had no idea I was currently emailing his schedule to the entire executive board, confirming the exact minute he would take the stage. But the hardest part wasn't dealing with Marcus. It was the financial terror. See, I wasn't just doing this for pride. I was doing it for survival. I have $82,000 in student loans. My rent is $1,800 a month for a shoebox that smells like boiled cabbage. I drive a 2014 Honda Civic that makes a noise like a dying seal when I turn left. The bonus for the Aurora waterfront project was supposed to be $40,000. Plus a promotion to senior associate. If Marcus took credit, he got the bonus. He got the promotion to VP. I got nothing. Actually, I got less than nothing. If I stayed silent, I'd be known as the logistics girl forever. My portfolio would be empty. My 3 years of work would belong to a man who couldn't calculate a load variance if his life depended on it. I checked my bank account on Friday night. Balance: $412.38. Credit card bill: $2,100. I ate instant ramen for dinner. The salty kind that makes your fingers swell. I looked around my apartment. The peeling paint. The drafty window. Marcus lived in a gated community in the hills. He drove a Porsche Cayenne. He had expensed a $400 lunch last week while I was eating a sandwich at my desk. This wasn't just business. It was personal. I needed access to the archive closet. It was locked. Only senior partners had the key. But Marcus was lazy. He kept a spare key in his top drawer under a stack of golf magazines. I knew this because I'm the one who organized his desk when he couldn't find his passport last year. Saturday morning. The office was empty. I swiped my badge. The beep was deafening in the silence. I walked to his office. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. He was arrogant enough to think no one would dare enter his sanctuary. I opened the drawer. Golf Digest. Golf Digest. Cigar aficionado. There was the small silver key. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was the point of no return. If I got caught now, I wouldn't just be fired. I could be sued. But I wasn't going to get caught. I walked to the archive closet. I unlocked the door. The smell of dust and old paper hit me. I found the box. Rejected, unstable. I carefully lifted the lid. There was my beautiful, broken creation. It looked perfect. The sleek lines. The soaring atrium. But I knew the secret. The tension cables were slightly too short. The central pillar was slightly off-center. It was a bomb waiting to go off. I carried the box to the main studio. The final model, the real one, was sitting on the podium covered by a velvet cloth. I took a breath. I lifted the cloth. The switch took exactly 4 minutes. I moved the real model, the sturdy, reinforced $15,000 masterpiece, into the empty box. I taped it shut. I shoved it deep into the back of the supply closet, behind a pallet of printer paper. Then I placed the unstable prototype on the podium. It looked identical. To the naked eye there was no difference. But as I set it down I felt the slight vibration in the base. The tension. It was yearning to snap. There was one problem. The prototype was so unstable that it wouldn't even stand up on its own for more than a few minutes without the external bracing case. But Marcus wanted a dramatic reveal. He wanted to pull a cloth off. He didn't want a clear acrylic case blocking the view. I had anticipated this. I had stopped at the hardware store on the way in. I had bought clear fishing line. Haida stuff. The kind used to catch marlin. I carefully, meticulously tied the key structural points of the model together. I created a web of invisible support. Then I attached the main anchor line, the pin that held the whole grenade together, to the underside of the velvet cloth. It was a simple mechanism. A booby trap. As long as the cloth was on the model, the tension held. The cloth acted as the external brace. But the moment someone pulled that cloth, the line would yank free. The tension would release. And physics would take over. I adjusted the velvet. I smoothed out the wrinkles. It looked innocent. It looked expensive. I stood back and admired my work. "You're evil," I whispered to myself. "No," I answered. "I'm efficient." I put the key back in Marcus's desk. I walked out of the office. I spent the rest of the weekend obsessing over every detail. Not of the model, that was done, but of the receipts. I went through 3 years of emails. I found the email where Marcus asked me, "What is a cantilever?" I found the email where I sent him the structural analysis of the failed prototype, marked urgent. "Do not use this design." I found the email from last week where he said, "I don't need to review the presentation materials, I trust my gut." I printed them all. I organized them into PDF binders. I didn't just want him to fail. I wanted him to be exposed. Because here is the thing about corporate parasites. They rely on the host being polite. They rely on us not wanting to make a scene. They rely on the silence of the competent. I was done being silent. I loaded everything onto a USB drive. Then I emailed the AV technician Dave. Dave and I were cool. I had fixed his laptop when he spilled soda on it last Christmas. "Hey Dave," I wrote. "Marcus wants to make sure the projection system is seamless for the gala. He asked me to load a backup of all the project files onto the main server just in case. Can you give me admin access for an hour?" 2 minutes later, Dave replied. "Sure thing, Steph. Here's the password." I logged in. I didn't replace his presentation. That would be too obvious. Instead, I created a folder called Emergency Backup Under Hida. And inside I placed my entire portfolio. Every drawing. Every calculation. Every time-stamped proof that I built this city. I was ready. Tuesday night. The gala. The venue was the grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton. Crystal chandeliers. Waiters in white gloves carrying trays of expensive champagne. I was wearing a black dress. Simple. Elegant. Functional. I was also wearing a headset. "Check 1, check 2, I said into the mic. "Can we get more ice at bar 2, please?" "Copy that, Steph," the catering manager said. I was playing the part perfectly. I was the clipboard girl. I was invisible. Marcus arrived at 7 p.m. He looked impeccable. A 3-piece Italian suit. His hair was coiffed to perfection. He smelled like expensive scotch and arrogance. He walked right past me. Didn't even nod. He went straight to the investors. I watched him from the shadows near the coat check. He was shaking hands with Mr. Henderson, the lead investor from the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Yes, it was a labor of love, I heard Marcus say. His voice was smooth, projecting just enough to be heard by the group. Many late nights. But when you have a vision, you have to chase it. Mr. Henderson nodded, impressed. And the engineering? The riverbed stability. Tricky, Marcus laughed. Very tricky. But I came up with a proprietary piling system. I'll explain it during the presentation. I felt my blood boil. He came up with it. He was at a golf retreat in Arizona when I designed that piling system. I had FaceTimed him to get approval for the budget increase, and he had been drunk in a hot tub. Just get it done, sweetie, he had said. I took a deep breath. Wait for it, I told myself. Patience. The room filled up. There were about 200 people. The mayor was there. The city council. The press. At 7:45 p.m. the lights dimmed. I stood by the AV booth at the back of the room. Dave was there manning the soundboard. Hey Dave, I whispered. Mind if I watch from here? No problem, he said. Marcus walked onto the stage. The spotlight hit him. He looked like a god. Ladies and gentlemen, he began. Distinguished guests. Tonight we don't just unveil a building. We unveil the future of Aurora. Applause. Polite, rich people applause. I checked my watch. 7:48 p.m. Marcus went into his speech. It was good. I'll give him that. He was charismatic. He used all the buzzwords. Synergy. Revitalization. Community. He didn't mention my name once. He thanked the board. He thanked the investors. He thanked his wife for putting up with the long hours. He didn't thank the architect who actually worked the hours. And now, Marcus said, his voice swelling with emotion, I invite you to see the crown jewel of my career. The Aurora Waterfront Center. He gestured to the podium. The model sat there, shrouded in velvet. The room went silent. The music swelled. A dramatic orchestral piece I had selected myself because it sounded like the soundtrack to a tragedy. Marcus stepped up to the podium. He looked at the crowd. He beamed. Behold, he said. He grabbed the corner of the velvet cloth. I held my breath. My nails dug into my palms. He pulled. The cloth came away smoothly. For exactly 1 second the model stood there. Gleaming. Beautiful. The audience gasped in appreciation. And then physics arrived. It started with a sound. A sharp, cracking pop that echoed through the silent ballroom. Marcus froze. He looked down at the model. The central atrium, deprived of the tension provided by the fishing line attached to the cloth, buckled. The main support pillar sheared to the right. The glass roof panels, made of heavy acrylic, lost their anchor points. Smash. The entire structure imploded. It wasn't a slow sag. It was a catastrophic failure. The model essentially exploded inward. Pieces of expensive plastic and metal flew onto the stage floor. The main tower toppled over and fell off the podium, shattering at Marcus's feet. A shard of acrylic bounced off his polished Italian shoe. Silence. Absolute, heavy, suffocating silence. The investors were staring. The mayor was staring. Marcus was staring at the pile of rubble that used to be his vision. His mouth opened but no sound came out. Then from the front row Mr. Henderson spoke. His voice was cold. Marcus? What just happened? Marcus looked up. He was sweating. Visible beads of sweat popping out on his forehead under the spotlight. He laughed nervously. A minor malfunction. The model. It's just a model, obviously. The real building is, That model represents the structural integrity of the atrium, Mr. Henderson said. He was an engineer by trade. I knew that. Marcus had forgotten that. Did the central pillar just shear under its own weight? No, Marcus stammered. It's the glue. Just bad glue. The design is flawless. Is it? Henderson stood up. Because that looked like a tension failure. The same kind of failure that would bring the real building down on top of 5,000 people. It's not. Marcus yelled. He was losing it. I designed it myself. It's solid. You designed it? Henderson asked. Yes. Every beam. Marcus doubled down. That was my cue. I leaned over to Dave in the AV booth. Dave, I said. He's drowning. Pull up the backup files. The folder marked emergency data. It has the schematics to prove the structure is sound. Dave, bless his heart, didn't hesitate. He thought he was helping. On it, Dave said. He clicked the folder. He projected the first file onto the massive 20-foot screen behind Marcus. It wasn't a schematic. It was an email. From Stephanie to Marcus. Date, March 14th. Subject, urgent, prototype failure. Text, Marcus, the cantilever design is dangerous. The model collapsed this morning. We cannot use this geometry. See attached video. And then because Dave had autoplay on, the video played. It was a grainy cell phone video of the exact same model collapsing in the break room 6 months ago. The sound of the crash boomed over the speakers. Marcus turned around. He saw the screen. His face went the color of old milk. The room erupted. Not with applause but with murmurs. Angry, confused murmurs. Turn it off. Marcus screamed at the booth. Turn it off. But Dave was confused. He clicked the next file. It was a spreadsheet. Titled, Project Hours Log. Stephanie, 2,400 hours. Marcus, 42 hours. The next slide. An email from Marcus. Steph, I don't care about the wind shear report. Just make it look sexy. I have a tea time. The murmur turned into a roar. I stepped out of the shadows. I walked down the center aisle. My heels clicked on the parquet floor. Hic, hic, hic. I didn't run. I didn't look angry. I looked concerned. Helpful even. Marcus, I called out, my voice projecting clearly without a microphone. Is everything okay? Do you need me to explain the load-bearing discrepancy? Marcus looked at me. His eyes were wide. Fear. Pure, unadulterated fear. You, he hissed. You did this. Did what? I asked, stepping up to the edge of the stage. I turned to Mr. Henderson. I'm so sorry, Mr. Henderson. Marcus insisted on using the discarded prototype for the visual flair. He liked the aesthetic better. I tried to tell him it was structurally unsound, but I gestured to the screen behind me where the tea time email was still glowing 20 feet tall. He was busy. Mr. Henderson looked at Marcus. Then he looked at me. You're Stephanie? He asked. Yes, sir, I said. Stephanie Vance. Lead architect. Lead. Marcus sputtered. She's the party planner. She's checking coats. Actually, I said, pulling a folded blueprint from my clutch. I'm the one who registered the patents for the piling system you mentioned earlier. My name is on the filing. Not yours. I handed the paper to Henderson. He unfolded it. He checked the signature. He looked at Marcus. The look was withering. It was the look you give a dog that has just soiled the rug. Marcus, Henderson said. Get off the stage. But, get the stage. Marcus looked around. He saw the board members whispering. He saw the mayor checking his phone, probably texting his PR team to distance himself. He saw the ruin of the model at his feet. He walked off. He didn't stride. He shuffled. The room was awkward. Tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Mr. Henderson turned to me. Ms. Vance, he said. The investors are very concerned. If the director doesn't understand the physics, how do we know the building is safe? This was it. The moment. I didn't hesitate. Because the director didn't design it, I said. I did. I signaled Dave. File 4, please. The screen changed. It showed the real schematic. The reinforced steel design. The math. The safety ratings. The model that collapsed was a rejected concept, I told the room. The actual design uses a trilateral steel core. It has a safety factor of 4.5. It can withstand a Category 4 hurricane and a 7.0 earthquake. It is efficient, it is under budget, and it is ready to break ground on Monday. I looked at the crowd. If you want a pretty model, you can hire Marcus. If you want a building that stands up, you hire me. For 3 seconds nobody moved. Then Mr. Henderson started to clap. Fully. Then faster. Then the mayor joined in. Then the board. I stood there under the spotlight Marcus had ordered for himself. I didn't smile. I just nodded. Because I wasn't the party planner. I was the architect. And I had just redesigned the corporate ladder. The fallout was swift and brutal. By 9 a.m. the next morning Marcus was gone. Security escorted him out. They didn't even let him take his Herman Miller chair. He left with a cardboard box containing a stapler and his framed golf photos. The rumor mill said the board didn't just fire him. They were investigating him for fraud regarding expenses on 3 other projects. Apparently, once you start pulling at a loose thread, the whole sweater unravels. I didn't see him leave. I was busy. I was in the conference room. The same one where he had demoted me 2 weeks ago. But this time I was sitting at the head of the table. Mr. Henderson and the CEO were sitting on the sides. Stephanie, the CEO said. He looked tired. We owe you an apology. I don't need an apology, I said. I had my receipts binder open in front of me. I need 3 things. Name them, Henderson said. 1, I said. Retroactive credit for the Aurora project. My name on the plaque. My name on the press release. Done, the CEO said. 2, I continued. Reimbursement for the overtime hours Marcus forced me to hide. I've calculated the total. It comes to $22,400. I slid a spreadsheet across the table. The CEO winced, but he nodded. Process today. And 3, I said. I leaned forward. I want the division lead position. With the salary Marcus was making. The CEO hesitated. Stephanie, you're young. That's a big jump. Usually we look for candidates with more executive experience. I tapped the table. I just saved this firm a $450 million lawsuit by preventing a fraud from breaking ground, I said calmly. I organized the most talked about gala in the city's history while simultaneously managing the structural engineering of a skyscraper. I think I have executive experience. Mr. Henderson laughed. A genuine belly laugh. She's got you there, Bob, he told the CEO. Give her the job. Or my firm pulls the funding. The CEO sighed. He extended his hand. Congratulations, Director Vance. I took his hand. Thank you, I said. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a team meeting. We have a waterfront to build. 6 months later. I stood on the banks of the river. The construction crew was pouring the foundation for the main atrium. The smell of wet concrete and welding torches filled the air. To most people it's noise. To me it's music. I wore a white hard hat. It said Vance Director on the front. My phone buzzed. A notification from LinkedIn. Marcus has viewed your profile. I clicked it. Curiosity got the better of me. His profile had changed. Former director. Open to work. Consultant. I scrolled down. He had posted a status update 2 hours ago. Unfairly let go due to internal politics. Looking for new opportunities where vision is appreciated. Hashtag thought leader, hashtag visionary. I had 2 likes. One was from his mom. I chuckled. Something funny, boss? I turned around. It was Dave, the AV guy. I had hired him as my operations manager. He was great at logistics and I knew I could trust him. Nothing, Dave, I said. Just an old joke. Hey, Dave pointed to the river. The first steel column is going up. I watched as the crane lifted the massive I-beam. It swung through the air, heavy and black against the blue sky. It lowered into place. The workers guided it down. Clang. It locked into the bolting cage. Perfectly aligned. Thought. Unshakable. It wasn't a model held together by fishing line and lies. It was real. I thought about the debt. Gone. I paid off my student loans in one lump sum the day my bonus check cleared. I thought about my apartment. I moved out last week. I bought a loft downtown. It has exposed brick and windows that actually close. I thought about Marcus sitting in his country club, probably telling anyone who would listen that I sabotaged him. And you know what? He was right. I did sabotage him. I handed him a loaded gun, pointed it at his foot and told him to pull the trigger. All he had to do to survive was be competent. All he had to do was check the work. All he had to do was treat me with a shred of respect. He couldn't do any of those things. So he fell. And I rose. I took a deep breath of the river air. All right, I said to Dave. Let's get back to work. I want to check the tension specs on the north wall. You got it, Director. I walked back toward the site office. My boots crunched on the gravel. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what was behind me. Something I built. Something that would last. And that is the best revenge of all.